it's like one day I fell asleep as Ingrid, dreaming about this life that I wanted, and then I woke up as Jaden and had this really amazing life where I'm comfortable in my body. And I think there's a fear of like, because I don't remember the in-between, of like, that this is all a dream and I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Okay, you ready?
Stoked, yeah.
Let's see, where should we start? I guess a little background about our relationship is that we used to live together. And probably for like, how long, 1 or 2 years?
Yeah, like 2.5.
2.5 years. And I think maybe after, it was like at least a year, you were talking with our third roommate about how you were on some type of hormone therapy because he's a bodybuilder and he's familiar with chemicals and hormones and stuff. And that's when I found out that you were not born a man.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, let me turn off the music.
Oh,
I just realized that's, here, we can start over.
So that was, I mean, just to jump right into it,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could just start there. And I thought that was just like such an eye-opener. Like I had no idea. Do you have like, but you said it so casually, you know, and it was so natural. And, you know, I never dug into it and I never judged or anything. I just thought that was actually like really cool.
Yeah.
like it's just surprise. And did you feel ever uncomfortable about like, I mean, you didn't seem uncomfortable about revealing that information, or does it ever come up in an uncomfortable way? Or yeah, what is your experience like?
Yeah, like coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I have a question for you before I answer that, which is like, have you, I guess, ever met other trans people before me, or have you been in situations where you have, you know, unconsciously had an expectation about somebody and then they revealed something to you where you were like, oh, I had an implicit bias or like an unconscious expectation about somebody?
I feel like, especially lately now that I am on like this crazy spiritual path, like it doesn't even register. I don't even have any expectations of like what somebody is supposed to be like. There's like really no judgment at all. But I will say that I feel like unfamiliar with the etiquette and what words I should or shouldn't say, or like what I do feel sometimes scared of like offending somebody. But I really just try to treat them how I would like to be treated. And yeah, does that resonate with you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I do love, I love when somebody feels safe enough to reveal something to me, and it both allows me a deeper understanding of that person, but also the like the mirror of like, oh, I had this expectation or assumption about you that I didn't know, like that total blindside, right? Like if someone reveals like, you know, that they have diabetes or something, right? Then I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. And I love that. I love learning about someone that way. But to answer your question, like I transitioned basically when I was 18, I would say, for the most part. And so when I met you at that point, I think I was already 36 maybe. So essentially I'd lived half my life as male and having the privilege of moving around in the world as male or as perceived as male. And so I had a lot of practice by the time I had that conversation with you. And so I think that's probably why it came off as very organic and you know, like that I didn't have any problems with it, because I don't. I will say I don't come out to cis men as often. They're just not in my world as much. All of my close friends are all cis women. And I find, you know, I just find that to be an emotionally safer spot. I think for obvious reasons, I think women are just more accepting of those things, or more fluid. I feel like coming out to women as a trans man, and maybe this is just my projection, but it doesn't, I don't have a fear of emasculating another man. Whereas there's definitely that, I wouldn't say fear, maybe a thought of that, right? Like, or threatening their masculinity in some way.
So you think coming out to a man, is that the impression that you've got when you have come out to some men?
No, it's funny because it's totally, I would say maybe it's a societal fear and also an internalized fear that I have. I've only had one situation where I came out to a cis guy, and it wasn't even aggressive or violent. It was basically like we were new friends, and then I came out to him, and then immediately he just stopped talking to me. Yeah, so it wasn't like aggressive. It was just I think he didn't know what to do with it.
Sure.
Years later, I was recounting this to another male friend of mine, and he was like, "Oh, I think he wanted to hook up with you." And I was like, "Oh, that never even crossed my mind." So who knows what the reason was, but that's the only negative, and I wouldn't even call it that, you know. But every other situation has been great, and they've had very similar reactions as you've had. Usually surprise, usually respect. Yeah, so it was very easy to come out, and in that context, specifically with the roommates, I felt like it was important for everybody to know, because at that point we were living together with you for at least a year, and then with a new roommate for several months, and so my sort of line in the sand of who I choose to come out to, and again, I will say it is a privilege that I get to choose, because not everybody gets to, right? A lot of people don't pass, and they don't have passing privilege. So the fact that I even get to choose is a huge privilege that I am aware of.
Sure.
But my line in the sand is if I see these people in my life for long or short term, then I will choose to disclose. And because we're living together, I felt like I wanted to disclose.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I feel privileged that you felt comfortable to do that. Also, that whole roommate dynamic thing is so weird, you know, and everybody's just like, I hated living with roommates. I've always have, but you know, you got to do what you got to do, and this is LA. Thankfully, I'm not in that situation anymore. Not that it was bad. I think it was actually very harmonious for the most part.
Yeah, I agree.
But, you know, I was just like, oh, that's cool. And then I just went off and did my own thing.
Yeah.
It was like not a big deal at all.
Yeah.
But it always stuck with me. Like I've always wanted to like dig into it and just learn more about your perspective and your background and what you've had to go through. Let's back up a little bit, like, and I want to hear like how you grew up and how the transition came to be and how you kind of gained the confidence and the realization of becoming who you are. Where did you grow up?
So I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada.
Okay.
My ethnic background is Chinese. And my dad is from mainland China and my mom is from Hong Kong, but both of them immigrated to Canada when they were pretty young. So my mom in her teens, my dad for university. So I would say they were already pretty westernized, even though I'm technically first generation. So they were, I guess, on the more progressive end of what you would consider traditional Chinese or traditional Asian stereotypes. And my parents divorced when I was 10, so my dad wasn't in the picture. But my mom was and is I would say she was the rebellious one in her family. So she was never the traditional sort of Asian tiger mom, which worked out to my advantage, I think, later on in life. But I have an older brother who's 8 years older, and my parents already had a horrible marriage by that time, and so I always wondered why they had another child so much later. And my mom had said it's because she really wanted a girl. Because she was in a household with two men, and she was like, I had nobody to talk to, and nobody would listen to me, and so I wanted a girl. And so she, I don't know if she's serious about it or just joking. I'm thinking she's serious because she is a Chinese mom at the end of the day, but she's like, I did all this stuff to like make a girl, you know, those old wives' tales. Yeah. And so I joke with her, and I'm like, see, this is what happens when you fuck with nature, Mom.
Yeah. Do you remember what she did?
I don't know. It was something about like when you conceive, I'm sure like the types of foods you eat, all that kind of stuff. So, and she also had a C-section, so I think it was also like when you deliver as well, whatever. And then there's like all this Chinese fortune stuff, I guess, of the moons or whatever. But yeah, so I knew very, very young that I was actually attracted to women. I knew that first, like probably as young as 5 or 6, I would have crushes on girls.
Wow.
And this was in like the late, like I was born in 83. And so the word trans didn't even exist in my world, or I think in the general lexicon at that time, but gay did. So I knew that I was gay very, very early. And I remember my first memory of seeing or being introduced to like gender nonconforming people was a documentary I saw on TV about gender nonconforming kids. And they didn't use that term, but they were just like, I think they used the term like problem kids or whatever. And I remember seeing like a little girl who would just like throw tantrums, like 100% tantrum whenever they tried to put her in a dress. And I remember resonating with that. And then for some reason, and I was probably like maybe 12 or 11 around that age. And I remember thinking, if I ever want to be a boy, I'd have to wait till my mom dies. My parents had divorced by then. So I was like, I have to wait till my mom dies. And I don't know why that thought came to my mind, because I knew that it was physically impossible for me to be a boy. But that thought that was it's my first memory of thinking that. And then at 16, I was raised Catholic. So I went to Catholic school up until high school, and I went to an all-girls Catholic school. And I started dating a girl at 16 who identified as straight, I think still does. And it was through that relationship that I actually got to explore gender a little bit more, even though, again, this was early 2000s. So I think at that time, people were still using the word transsexual. And that word even didn't exist to me yet. So I think because I dated a straight girl, we just sort of fell into this like, this is why I have such a strong argument for nature versus nurture, because literally with no information or resources, and Google was in its infancy, so it's not even like I was like going to the Google to look this up or find other people. There was something inherent within me and within our relationship dynamic that naturally fell into this very gendered, sort of like ironically heterosexual relationship. So because we had to hide it from our friends, and because we had to hide it from everybody, we sort of started, she started calling me her boyfriend. And we never had a conversation about how it was like, hey, I don't love female pronouns. Like, we never talked about it. She just normally started calling me her boyfriend. And then instead of using my birth name, she just started calling me pet names. So she almost never used my birth name ever. And I never said like, hey, I'm more comfortable with this. We just both kind of knew. And so one day I was going through a baby book and wrote down all of the names that I liked. And Jaden is the only one she didn't veto. So for better or for worse, I'm forever tied to my first girlfriend.
Wow.
Yeah, it's...
Did you keep in touch with her?
No. No, unfortunately not. Yeah, I mean, she changed my life in so many ways, and that's definitely one that will tie me to her forever.
Does she know that?
No. Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, maybe she will.
Yeah, maybe she will now.
What was your name that you were born with?
So my birth name was Ingrid.
Ingrid.
Yeah.
Ingrid Pan.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, my mom ironically named me after the movie star Isabella, or Ingrid Bergman, and then her daughter is Isabella Rossellini. So my middle name was Isabel. And she named me Ingrid because she's the rebel in her family. And she was like, I didn't want a girl who had like a sissy name, like Ashley or Jessica. She's like, I wanted someone with a strong name. And I was like, well, I kind of tipped over the other way, but yeah.
What's the difference between like being transgender, feeling like you're a man in a woman's body, and being gay?
Oh yeah, good question. So I think it's like there's a great Venn diagram of sexual orientation and gender identity, and there's some overlap for sure. But sexual orientation is basically who you're attracted to, and gender identity is how you feel inside. That's probably the easiest way to explain it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So they can be mutually exclusive, obviously, because how you feel inside doesn't necessarily reflect who you're attracted to, and vice versa. But there's also overlap in the middle of like, you know, if you identify as male, like for instance, if I was attracted to men, I would consider myself gay. Yeah.
Gotcha. So what are your pronouns now?
My pronouns are he, him.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you consider your sexual orientation?
So the best name that I would say would be queer. It's, I think like most things in life and identity politics in general, we're living, breathing organisms. So very little of us, I think, is a finite, consistently stable point.
Yeah.
So my sexual orientation has fluctuated. I was certainly romantically and sexually attracted to women for most of my life. It's actually pretty common that after trans men start hormones, their sexual orientation, I don't even want to say changes, I'll say expands or evolves, for many reasons. But yeah, so then I became sexually interested in cis men, and then now it's sort of moved back into, and I was never romantically attracted to men, and I was always very clear about that. But certainly to both. And then more recently, I've really, I feel like I've swung, and actually I feel like I was a little bit homophobic in the beginning before my transition, because I was not comfortable in my own masculinity. And so when I would go to gay bars and guys would hit on me, I would almost like pivot the other way and be really homophobic. And then once I transitioned and felt more comfortable in my body, that's when I became comfortable with men. And now I feel like I'm like, because I was never romantically attracted to men, now I'm like, oh, I'm not interested in men at all.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty heterosexual in the sense that I'm like romantically and sexually attracted to cis women. But yeah, the heterosexual or straight doesn't feel right to me either. So queer feels like the best label for me.
Gotcha.
Because it also leaves room for change.
How did things go with that first girlfriend when you were 16?
Oh, down in flames.
Down in flames?
Yeah. It was really tough. Yeah, I think it's really challenging to, and this is what I've noticed growing up queer or growing up as any sort of minority, the things that, so, the thing, and we had just talked about this, right? The foundation of human experience, I think, and human emotion is love. That is the most natural thing that comes to all of us. And I think growing up queer, what was hard, especially in Catholic school or growing up religious, is the most natural thing that was coming to me was to express love. And I was, I had all of these crushes on girls, but I was told that it was wrong. And I think that really fucks up a person. Because for something to feel so incredibly natural and beautiful and something that I want to give, and then the message that I'm receiving is that it's bad and it's disgusting and taboo and like I should be hiding it, or it's like something that I should feel so ashamed of, really fucked me up. Like to this day, I'm still wrestling with it. And so when I had that sort of, that baggage, and then not only did I have that baggage, but then we had to sustain this relationship through secrecy and shame, like inevitably it's going to end in flames, So yeah, it didn't end well, but her partner now is the person that she was with after me. So yeah, I think that it was,
high school sweethearts all to this day.
Yeah, exactly.
But it actually sounds like a very beautiful progression. Even in my opinion, even the tragedy of you breaking up and ending in flames, but how else could it have gone down,
right,
given the circumstance?
Right. And I will say, like, I was recently doing a journaling exercise where the prompt was like, what age or grade would you want to relive and why? And I can't remember most of my childhood up until like probably college, and even maybe 25. From like 0 to 25, I have very few memories. But the age that I wanted to relive is probably 16, because it was falling in love before knowing heartbreak. And that window is so small in everybody's life. And that's what that relationship gave me, and I do feel very grateful for it.
I know the feeling. I remember what that pure love felt like. That love is such a tricky thing, and society doesn't make it easy with all like the constructs and the limitations and expectations and all the baggage that goes into what should be just something simple and pure and unconditional and natural.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, I just became jaded after they all failed. And it's really quite a shame that I feel like I lost that type of passion that I had before. I would write like love letters. I would like, call them every day, and I mean, just thinking about it, it's like so beautiful. And for a long time, it was just nothing. Like I felt nothing, and I would never do those types of things anymore. But I'm actually feel like I'm getting back to that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel it coming like full circle. But now I'm approaching it in a much wiser position where I have just like so much experience. But the window into experiencing love is just so much deeper now.
Yeah. It's more than just, it sounds like you've expanded the definition to include way more than romantic love.
Yeah.
And maybe even way more than what the English language has to define love.
Yeah, to be honest, like, but when I meet somebody, like often like the first thing, and I'm so glad that I can control myself, but like the first thing that pops into my head, it doesn't even matter who it is, it's like I'll think in my head like I love you. Like you're just so beautiful. It doesn't even matter who it is. Like I just see like this energy. I see this like perfect being in front of me, and and even in the imperfections and in this society and in this container, there's all these baggage and whatever, but all of that I just think is so beautiful. I just want to tell him I love you, but of course I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate that our society has created that boundary, right? That it's like, who doesn't like being told that they're loved?
Well, there's a lot of baggage to it. Love means a lot. It goes really deep with some people. Sometimes I feel like I'm like a golden retriever. Like that's what that's what a dog says to you when they meet you, right? There's just like nothing but love there. They just love everybody. Like that's like me.
Yeah. Golden retriever energy is a thing. Yeah. There's like it's like a hashtag now.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of baggage there. So you got to be really careful. And I know the hard way for sure of being discerning about who can receive your message, your love, and who can't, and how. Like I think the main thing to be careful about is how you express it, or like even that word, you could say it in other ways. You could say I appreciate you, or like something else that they can digest and they have access to. But love just has so much weight to it sometimes,
Yeah, it's true. And then also there's, in communication, there's also the receiver, right? The receiver is 50% of the communication.
Yeah.
And wherever they're at in being able to receive that message and how, is also part of the equation.
Yeah. So let's go back to your childhood. So how was it after you broke up with this first girl? Was it difficult to recover from that?
Yeah. I probably still bear the scars to this day. It was, I think for any teenager, that point in their life is always really challenging.
Yeah.
Regardless of who you are, or how you identify, right? 16, 15 to like 20 is a tough half decade.
Yeah.
And a lot of things happened that were very concentrated in that time. So, I had the first relationship, and I really resonate with what you're saying, because I think I'm a romantic at heart too. So I was writing a lot of poetry, like, I think I was built to love. And so being able to find somebody to express that and put that into was like, like talk about dopamine receptors going off, and especially at 16, your dopamine receptors aren't just going off, they're like fucking explode, like fireworks, right? Like everything that's a 10 feels like 100. So that sort of spike was going on, but then the natural progression of like, new, like 16-year-old trying to navigate a relationship and sex and all of this stuff obviously comes with pitfalls as well. So you have like the peaks and the valleys that feel like 100 on each side.
Yeah.
So there's the emotional stuff going on, the hormonal stuff going on. My mom had just remarried a guy, that's how I ended up in the US, an American guy. And so they had just married around that time. She had moved around that time. And so there was just a lot going on. So after we broke up, I was, I would say I was like 80% suicidal.
Oh, wow.
I certainly had suicidal ideations. I don't know if I was ever at the point where I had, it's a weird term, but like a successful attempt. I certainly had attempts, but none of them were like I followed through, if that makes sense.
What were your attempts?
So I lived on the 18th floor of an apartment building, and definitely like looked over the edge. I went up to the roof a couple times. I was one of my coping mechanisms was self-harm. That was never intended to be suicidal, but I was certainly self-harming. And yeah, I definitely have a very clear memory of like holding a knife to my throat and then like waking up and being like, what am I doing? You know, where you sort of black out and then wake up. And yeah, I was never a drinker until I was like 27. But my mom had like a bar cart in the house, and so I definitely like drank till I was puking several times. So yeah, and I definitely was thinking about suicide all the time. I was suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
All the time.
Where do you think it came from? Like, you just didn't feel like you had a purpose, or you didn't know who you were, or like where did the sense of self-worth, or what was the main struggle that you were dealing with?
Yeah, probably all of the above and more. Broken up with, I think it takes a hit to your ego, and then immediately you're like, I'm worth nothing and I'll never find anyone. And I think that is the problem. I've since learned of love addiction, which I'm familiar with now, and I've done a lot of research on, and it's also a 12-step program. And so I've learned a lot from that group. But attachment theory, are you familiar with attachment theory? So yeah, that's another one, right, of how we attach to people. And if we had healthy attachment to our parents, it helps with our attachments as we grow up, obviously. But if we had unhealthy attachments with our parents, or if our parents weren't around or abusive or whatever, it lives in us, and we don't know how to form healthy attachments with other people. And so what you were describing is similar to what I was doing, right? Where I would find someone and be like, this is the person that's going to love me. And then you like, have you heard of the term love bombing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, that's what you do, because you're like, you are my person. I'm going to throw all my poetry at you. I'm going to throw everything at you, because you're the one that's going to save me and fix me and validate me. And so when that person is gone, you're suddenly like, wow, I'm nothing again, right? Because you gave all your money away to somebody else, and then they ran off with it, so now you're poor. So I think at 16, obviously I was unaware that I was doing that, or we broke up when I was 18. And so there was definitely a sense of abandonment. There was a sense of, no self-worth. And then I was also alone a lot. I was a very lonely child. Even before the divorce, but especially after the divorce. My mom was a single mom. She was struggling, and her job would take her out of town very often. So I was alone. And then my brother was so much older. He was 8 years older, and so he was also I was a teenager, so he was in college, and he's like, why the fuck am I staying at home? So he was out a lot. So I was just home alone a lot as a child or as a teen, and so having to deal with a heartbreak and being alone, and then also, this is the worst part, I think, is not being able to talk about what's causing you pain. And that is the worst thing in the world, because everybody has heartbreak. But usually you can call your friends and be like, my fucking boyfriend's an asshole, or my girlfriend cheated on me. But because this whole relationship, and it was 2.5 years. So like at a 2.5 year relationship at 16 is like a fifth of your life or whatever, it's a huge chunk of your life. And so to have to deal with this heartbreak and not be able to share it is sort of like a double wound. And so I think it was the combination of the isolation, the breakup, the abandonment, and then also just this like deep shame around it that was like, what? It makes total sense of why I want to kill myself. Like, it's so logical, right? Because then it's like, what am I even worth? So how did you get through that? God, that's a good question. I have to say there was some beautiful divine something in me that wanted to survive. I don't know what it was, but it was enough to not kill myself.
Well, I mean, you're here,
Yeah.
and you've figured something out. I mean, you have a career and a life, and you're dating again and everything. Like, what were the steps to get you from there to here?
I think it was, oof. You know, I think a lot of people say like, you must be very courageous, or like, you must have so much bravery for transitioning because it's such a hard thing to do, especially at that time in the early 2000s. And I really appreciate that compliment. And I also don't know if it's 100% true, because I didn't feel like it was a courage thing. It actually felt like a desperation thing, because it felt like I had no choice. Like, it was either that or kill myself.
I see. So
Yeah.
after the breakup is when you did your
Shortly thereafter.
physical medical transition.
Yeah.
Shortly after.
Yeah. So after the breakup, I was close to suicide, and because I was a minor still, my school counselor, thank God for. Actually, you know what got me through it is fucking therapy.
Yeah.
So at 10, my school put me with the school counselor. They must have saw something was wrong. So since 10, I had been going to see school counselors even through high school.
Yeah.
And so my school counselor at the time had said, you know, this is sort of like beyond my scope. Like, I think we need to put you in an inpatient, or like on basically suicide watch. And so I need you to have an evaluation with a psychiatrist. But because I was a minor, my parents needed to be there. And so, and up until this whole time, like, my mom didn't know anything. And so, it just so happened, because she had married the guy already, and so they were in the States, and so it just so happened that they were in Toronto at that time. So I brought her into the meeting, and it was that meeting with the psychiatrist that like everything came out, that I was gay, that was in this relationship.
Wow. And your mom was there in the meeting?
Yeah, my mom and my stepdad. I remember so few parts of it, but basically my therapist actually came out for me, because she was like, do you want to tell her what's going on? And I was like, you tell her. And so that's when she was like, I was in this relationship, we had broken up, and the therapist was like, I'm concerned for their safety, and like, we have a bed reserved, you know, you just need to sign off on it. And so that's when my mom...
A bed for you to like stay there overnight and be watched or something?
Yeah. It's like, I guess the equivalent of a 5150 here, where they hold you for 72 hours.
Okay.
I don't actually know what the rules are in Canada, but that my mom refers to that time as a bomb going off in her life.
Yeah.
I mean, she knew that I was gay, because I was always a very masculine child. But my stepfather is ironically a psychologist. So he was very concerned that he was like, if you get checked into a hospital, it's going to affect your future employment.
Oh, is
As
it on
all
your record
like
or something?
Yeah, he was worried that it was going to be on the record, which, I mean, to this day I'm like, I feel like there's HIPAA laws, and it was Canada. Like, I don't know if like the states could look that up, but regardless, he was like, instead of checking you in right away, let's like have a conversation about this first.
Wow, okay.
Which was great for the time. So we went to this restaurant, and I only remember the restaurant we went to. I have no recollection of what we talked about, how long we were there for.
Sure.
But neither of them, I would say, are like emotionally inclined people. So while the conversation was good to like get all the facts on the table of what had happened, I don't remember leaving with a sense of feeling emotionally supported, either from that day or subsequently then.
Okay.
But it did stop me from getting checked in for suicide watch. But as a result of that, my mom was like, you're not staying in Toronto alone anymore. So she brought me to the US. So that's how I got to the US, sort of against my will, because I actually had no will at that time. I considered myself being very like just gone. So like wherever she pulled me, I would have gone, because I was just so vacant and numb from everything.
Yeah. Wow. Well, they really cared for you and was there for you, even though like maybe they. Do you think they understood?
No, I mean, yeah, I think it's really hard to understand when you have a kid that's so different from you.
Yeah.
And I empathize with my parents now for that, because I think parents in general are so ill-equipped to be parents, right? Like how would you know until you have a kid?
Yeah.
And then to have a kid that is so vastly different, has such vast different personality and life experiences and all of these things from yourself, like I empathize with how to grapple it.
Yeah.
But I think, speaking of generational trauma, I think the biggest hurdle in this type of generation between first generation Western children and non is not only a cultural gap, but also a fundamentally different relationship with trauma. And that affects everything in my experience. So the fact that my parents were not able to address their own trauma has like irreparably stunted their ability to support me.
Yeah. Yeah, that brings to mind like two thoughts that like we just talked about, how ill-equipped parents are. Like when a parent is childbearing age, how it seems they're so ill-equipped to be a parent at that age. What, like between 18 and 30, 35, right? But we're still like developing. We're still like figuring shit out. We're still becoming an adult and learning what it means to like live our lives through that time. And we were just talking before this interview about how, that's so backwards and how it is in certain cultures and religions, in that it's the elders that are supposed to be raising the kids, and and the child bearers, they just have the kids and then they live out their lives.
Yeah.
And that just makes such perfect sense. It's like, and it just makes me think like, how backwards do we have so many things? But that's just like a whole rabbit hole for sure.
Yeah.
But so you moved to the States, and then what happened?
So the States is where I was able to transition, for better or for worse. It just so happened I was 18 at the time, so it was a good time to pull me out of Canada because I had graduated. And my stepfather worked for a university or for a college, and so it made sense to just plug me into that college.
Okay.
So I started there, and there was a brief period where my ex-girlfriend wanted to reconcile. And
she was back in Canada, right?
She was back in Canada, and so my mom had sort of emergency pulled me out of Toronto because of that experience. And so I joined the school year sort of halfway through. And so I convinced my mom to let me go back to Toronto for a semester so that I could try and be with my girlfriend again. Not that she knew the second half of that part. But I was just so unhappy in the US because I mean, it was so, like, I've traveled quite a bit. Even at that age, I had traveled quite a bit. And since then, I've traveled a lot. But the move from Toronto to a small town in the US is the most cultural shock I've ever experienced in my life. To go from a major metropolitan city to a small town, from a ton of diversity to almost none racial diversity, was really, really hard. And so I went back. Things didn't work out again, which was like a second heartbreak, and then I ended up back in the States permanently. And I joined the local the school GSA group, and that was the first time I'd heard the word transgender, because I was telling the organizers, who were two lesbians at the time, I was like, I just don't feel like the word lesbian fits me. Like, I don't like the word, it doesn't resonate with me. And they were like, well, maybe you're transgender. And the word was in the realm, but I had never looked into it and never thought about it. And then I started doing more research, and it was like such rudimentary research at that time. Like, the internet was in its infancy, like just the actual internet.
Yeah.
And then the resources available, especially for such a minority, were little to none. But what I could find was almost immediately like this light bulb went off. And I think that thought that I had, 10 years earlier about being a boy was suddenly a reality. And so I spent some time researching that, and I actually don't know if this exists anymore, but at the time there's a thing called the Standards of Care, and it was basically like a checklist that someone had to go through and live through before you could physically do any surgeries or take any hormones. So it was like to make sure you wanted to do this. So you had to like live and present as your chosen gender for like a year, which now seems ridiculous because A, it's not feasible for everybody. Like, what if you can't buy the clothes? What if you can't afford the clothes? What if you can't afford the hormones? What if you can't afford whatever? What if it's physically dangerous for you to go into the fucking bathroom? You know, like, it just is not realistic now, but at the time that's what it was.
What were the criteria of living your gender?
Exactly, and how was it policed?
Yeah,
I think it was like you had to like come out to everybody in your life. It was really arbitrary and strange. So you had to live that way for a year, and then you could start hormones, or you could start hormone blockers before then, whatever, etc.
I suppose they're looking for a like a buffer to make sure that this is what you really want to do before you go into like the medical side of it.
Exactly. And I think this might be a conspiracy theory, but I also think it was like to prevent people who were trying to like change their identity for like malicious purposes.
For malicious purposes.
Like if you were like a criminal.
Oh.
Yeah, and trying to like have a different identity or a different like ID or something like that. Or if you were on the lam or something.
Man, if you were that determined, the year.
Exactly. I think that's why they made it a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of just being able to go to the courthouse, right?
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Man,
it's crazy.
You'll think of like any possible scenario that could possibly happen ever, like
I know
will probably happen, right?
Yeah, human beings will find a loophole for everything. So I was able to socially transition pretty easy, and again, like some sort of divine spirit gave me this path of being in a place where I knew nobody, so I could literally be like, my name is, chocolate pudding, and it would be fine because nobody knew me. So I was able to start using Jaden and he, him pronouns. And again, like the magic of the universe landed me, even though it was a small town on the West Coast, and it was super progressive.
What town?
Olympia, Washington.
Okay.
And so my college was like, it's funny, I call it like a trans guy factory, because per capita, it's got to be like the queerest place in the world. But there was like a ton of lesbians, and then a ton of lesbians who then transitioned into trans men. So I had models suddenly for people who felt like me and who actually went through the process.
Wow.
And people who were loudly doing so, whereas I came from a place of like deep shame around it and questioning and all of this stuff. And so I was able to socially transition, and I would even have people, like I remember the first time I came out in class was I rode on the coattails of someone else, because someone else stood up, and this was before it was like normal to go around in a circle and be like, what are your names and pronouns, right? So like this person stood up in class and was like, I prefer to go by Hunter, and if you could use, it wasn't even he, him pronouns, but it was like, if you can refer to me as a boy or something very rudimentary like that.
Yeah.
And then it was my turn to introduce myself, and I was like, yeah, what he said. So like that was my like sort of, and I remember even like stumbling when I would meet new people and like reverting back to being like, oh, my name is Ingrid, or, whatever. And it took me a little bit to even get used to my own identity in that way. But the social transition there was so much easier because nobody knew me. And then with my family, it got a little bit harder, obviously. I think the first time someone called my house, back when nobody had cell phones, so my friends would call my house and ask for Jaden, and my stepdad did not take kindly to that. And so he, like, the way that he communicates is through letters. So he like wrote me a letter that was like, you'll never be a boy, because all the stereotypical things, right? Of like, you didn't play sports and like all of this stuff.
Wow.
And so neither of my parents were like neither of them would have kicked me out, and they were not like verbally or like aggressively abusive in any way, but there was a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And so it took a while for them to come around, and I've never had a close relationship with my stepdad, and I was living with them at the time, but after I moved out, we basically are not really in touch, and because they got married when I was a teenager, so there was really no need, or like we never grew up in the same house together. But my mom and I obviously are closer. And I've kept all of the birthday cards and Christmas cards throughout the years, and you can see the evolution of like the cards. So it would be like Ingrid, and then there was a few years where it was like Ingrid / Jaden, and then it's like been Jaden the whole time. So it's very cute that way.
Yeah, she's trying.
Yeah, for sure. And like she went from being, so like the first time I told her about it was over dim sum, and she had known that I was gay, and I was like, I've done some research, and a therapist had also suggested like that I might have gender dysphoria. So I told her what my therapist said, and I was like, I've done some research, and I think these are the things that I have to do, and I think, I actually don't even remember what I said, but basically like this is what I want to do. And her knee-jerk reaction was, in Chinese, she said like, you're only doing this because you want to get into the Chinese newspapers, and you know that Chinese people don't do this. And I like, it's so funny because I like couldn't even be upset. I wasn't even angry. And to this day, I'm still not angry because it's so ridiculous.
It's such a funny response.
Yeah. And that's when I knew.
You're doing it for attention.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't even think that's what she meant, because I'm a very introverted, shy person. And so like attention is the worst thing in the world for me.
Yeah.
And so that's when I knew that this was such a shock for her, that it was such a knee-jerk reaction. And it literally felt like Mad Libs to me. Like she didn't know what she was saying and was just throwing words together. And so I like couldn't even respond to that. But like, and that's why I appreciate my mom in this way, even though we're not emotionally close, is like she went from that was like day one, to I have family in Hong Kong who were they're not living anymore, but at the time they were in their 80s and 90s. And I would visit every year. And I took a few years off in my transition because I was afraid and not wanting to deal with that. And my, they're a couple. They're like my grandmother's brother and his wife. And the husband is like such a misogynist, and so I was always very worried about coming out to him. And just in general, like I feel like at least my family, and I would say most Asian families, are very blunt, right? Like there's no such thing as political correctness.
Yeah,
is that the case in your family?
Yeah, there's no filter.
Yeah, they'll just tell you that you look fat. They'll tell you that you're pimply. And I did not want to deal with that.
I think my sister gets the worst of it.
The women always get it the worst, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And so I didn't want to have to deal with that. And they had already made comments about all of the things before. And so I waited a few years before I went back. And then the year that I went back, my mom called ahead and was like, Jaden's coming back. Basically, don't be an asshole.
Okay.
And so I went back, and I remember like walking into the restaurant and seeing the couple there and like being very nervous, and like their reaction was hilarious. They were like, oh my God, you look so good. You look so great. Like, I'm so glad you're back. It's been so long.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's great. And then in my brain, I was like, oh, it's because I transitioned the right way.
Huh.
Like, I guarantee if I had transitioned from male to female, it would have been a shit show. And I probably would have never been able to go back, actually. Because my grandfather's such a misogynist.
Yeah. And
like literally from that day, I was basically like so loved because I was now like the boy in the family, you know? And so yeah, so my mom went from day one being like, you're doing this for attention, to being like my best advocate, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it took her a while, but a therapist had told me, at some point, if she can never accept you, when you go to like lunch and the waitress looks at you and she says like, oh, and my mom says like, oh, my daughter will have this or she'll have this, it's going to be the waitress that's looking at her weird, because it won't line up. And so I was like, well, that makes me feel a little bit better. But she's been able to make the full turn, and like, yeah, it's been so many decades now.
Yeah. I mean, it's really beautiful that you were able to, have changed their perspectives a little bit to some degree. Kind of like, I mean, that's what life is all about, you know?
Yeah.
Just like, I could kind of see how you open their eyes in a way. I just think that's really beautiful.
Thanks.
So how was the transition? So you had made this decision, and then what was like the medical steps to it? How did you find a doctor? What did it feel like? Like, can you walk me through that whole process?
Yeah. So it's not like this anymore because the resources are so much more plentiful now. In the U.S., at least, the insurance covers it, or covers a good chunk of it, not everything. And yeah, like, I cannot emphasize how plentiful the resources are now in terms of like not only quantity, but like the fact that healthcare providers and doctors and surgeons even know about this and how to perform it.
Yeah.
And at least for some places, not all, they even train their staff in sensitivity so that when they address you, when the nurses and the orderlies address you, they use the right fucking pronouns. You know, like, imagine going in for a surgery, a gender transition surgery, and then having the person who's calling you into surgery use your wrong name.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, a whole different world now that I never thought I'd live to see. But at the time, I had to look up surgeons who would do basically like breast reductions. It's a similar surgery, except it's more like, instead of just taking out breast tissue, they also like replace the nipple like to the appropriate place. They also resize the nipple into like a male, because males have smaller nipples, and then like where the scars are and stuff like that. Depending on your chest size before the surgery, there's different techniques that they can use. But basically, I had to look up someone that did that because there wasn't anybody that specialized in obviously trans people at the time. So I found
that was the first step, breast reduction.
It can be anything,
but
but it was mine. Yeah. So chest masculinization surgery is what I call it at the time. It was the most affordable one. Actually, hormones is where I started, actually.
Okay.
So I started with testosterone at 19, I believe. Yeah, at 19 I started hormones, and then at 20 I had the chest surgery. And then at 21 I had like a full hysterectomy. And I actually don't know if it's true. So I was told to have a hysterectomy because when you go on hormones, it's sort of, it doesn't totally make you infertile, but it can't, like, you can technically still get pregnant, although it's rare.
Hysterectomy is like a vasectomy for women, right?
Yes, that's right. So they take out, I mean, they can take out just the, oh my God, what's it called?
Ovaries? Eggs?
Yeah. No, the...
Vulva? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh my God. This is hilarious. This is such a dude moment. What's the womb called?
The urethra?
The uterus.
The uterus.
Oh my God. Okay. Edit that out. So they can either just take out the uterus, just the ovaries, or everything.
Okay.
So I took out everything. And it's because testosterone, like, you can still technically get pregnant, although it's weird, although it's rare. But if it's not being like used, it could atrophy and cause cancer. At the time, that's what I was told. I don't know if that's still accurate. And so I had that hysterectomy. Not that I needed or wanted those parts anyway, so it was fine.
So you took them all out?
Took them all out, yeah. And luckily, because I'm Canadian, I had all my surgeries done there. And the hysterectomy was covered, although I think there were some loopholes I needed to jump through because I had already changed my the legal documents is a whole other step too. So my legal documents already said I was male, and then I was having a hysterectomy. So I feel like I needed to jump through some hoops to justify that or write a letter. But my chest surgery was not covered by anything at the time, so my mom paid for that. And then I opted and still opt to not have any below the belt like genital surgeries, at least for right now. And yeah, that's the physical transition.
Gotcha. So you still have female parts below the belt?
That's right, yeah.
Gotcha.
They are enhanced by hormones. So they, I would say, like, don't look like a cis woman's vulva.
For people who do have a transition, is it possible to grow like male parts in a female from a female body?
No. So trans men like can't like physically ejaculate like a cis man would. Although like because basically we're all born female. Like the fetus itself has female, and then the Y chromosome starts the testosterone wash over the fetus, and then that's when the secondary sex whatever grows into like a penis and testes and the male reproductive system, right?
Gotcha.
So everybody starts as female.
Gotcha.
So all of our genitals are actually analogous to each other. So so the ovaries are the testes, the clitoris is the penis, and then the uterus basically just closes, right? Which is why like cis men have like that seam.
The seam.
Yeah, like on the bottom of your genitals, there's like a seam along your penis area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So they're like mirrors of each other, right? And so you can't like, you won't have testes to actually ejaculate from, and like the urethra. So like when you go on testosterone, the clitoris grows into basically like a micro penis, but you don't grow the urethra as well. Okay. So there are limitations to what obviously hormones can do, but like hormones in general, it changes the body. So it's almost like going through a second puberty.
Yeah. So that was my next question. Like, what does it feel like? Did you have pain, and did it have a mental, emotional toll on you? Like, what did it feel like?
Gosh, unfortunately, I'm not the best person to ask about this because this was the period right after the breakup. And so I was like still very in a foggy state of mind. And I remember thinking, you know, I was going through such personal trauma at the time from the breakup and then this like cross-country, other country move that I remember thinking, I don't want transition to be the silver bullet that fixes everything in my life. Like, and I knew that it wouldn't be. And so I didn't want to place all my eggs in the basket to be like, you know, once I have a beard, everything will be great. Once my voice drops, everything will be great. So I actually very mindfully said, I like don't want to document all of this stuff, like the changes. Like now, if you go on YouTube, you can see a lot of trans people document their change, like from month to month, how their voice changes or body hair or anything like that. And I purposefully didn't want to do that either mentally or in a physical form. So I have very few memories around my transition. And it's going to sound a little bit silly, but I think it's actually why I'm a little bit nervous to this day and I can't even find the words to say it, but it's like one day I fell asleep as Ingrid dreaming about this life that I wanted. And then I woke up as Jaden and had this really amazing life where I'm comfortable in my body. And I think there's a fear of like, because I don't remember the in-between of like, that this is all a dream and I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. So in terms of feelings, like I wish I could tell you like, you know, the day I grew up my first chin hair, I was elated, or like the first day I could shave. I don't remember those firsts at all. And I think, yeah, I do remember like people commenting on my voice dropping. Again, I was always a very masculine child and person. And so I think the things that changed were, you know, the fat redistributes on your body. So my shoulders got broader, my waist got narrower, my voice dropped. Unfortunately, when I turned 30, I lost my hair. But I never really had the spikes in anger, which I've heard can happen. Testosterone is a much more, ironically, I think, like, feelings forward, maybe, or feelings, external feelings hormone. So I never got that sort of anger spike. Definitely had a libido spike.
Like an increase in your sex drive?
Yeah. Yeah, like picture a 14-year-old boy, right? Yeah. And what's actually really funny is like, I can't multitask anymore. Like that, that stereotype of like women can do everything.
Yeah.
I find that like if I, like at the time I was working for the college and I was like on the computer, and if someone would come and try and talk to me, I'd get like irritated.
Yeah.
Whereas before I could do both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I can't, I just don't like doing that as much.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can't do it as well.
Yeah, I can't multitask. It's very difficult for me.
Yeah, same. So yeah, it's funny. I lost that ability, but I also gained, and maybe this is also a loss, in that inability to multitask physical things. I've also lost the ability to multitask emotional things, which in my life has actually been a positive thing, because I'm an overthinker by nature and an overfeeler, like a highly sensitive person. And so while I would feel a bunch of things and get really attached to them and worried about them, I can't do that anymore. And so now it's like, well, because I'm only worried about this one thing, I don't really give a shit about this other thing, which has actually been much healthier for me than trying to worry about everything. Yeah.
Interesting. Are you a very like spiritual, religious person? You mentioned several times how you felt like divinely guided in some ways. Yeah,
I think technically I'm agnostic, but I certainly have. I don't even like to use the word believe, because believe feels very arrogant to me. Like, who am I to say I believe in something, especially if it's something as big as God or divinity or spirituality? Like, what gives me the right to say I believe in this thing that's huge, right? So I don't love the word believe, but I use the word guided and divine because while I've had like a lot of trauma in my life, I also consider myself really lucky. And there's just no reason for me to be this lucky unless it's divine. Actually, my mantra for 2024 is I don't know, because I tend to be an overthinker, and I tend to deeply attach myself to my thoughts. And of course my thoughts are never like, you're a wonderful person and everything's going to turn out fine. My thoughts are always very catastrophic thinking, right? So I've realized that like with meditation, you're not supposed to resist the thoughts or try and turn them off. You try and like move through them.
Sure.
So the I don't know mantra has helped me not turn down the quality or quantity of the thoughts, but it's helped me get some distance from that attachment. So whereas I can have the thoughts of like, this thing will turn out poorly, my rebuttal to that is like, well, I don't know, it actually will. Like, why do I think I have the arrogance of being able to predict the future? So it's given me some distance from that. And so I love your explanation of the vibrations and the meaning, because I see it as, our vibrations and everything is a vibration, right? Like this table, the cameras, everything is just vibrating cells. And so like, if it's like pieces of a puzzle and there isn't a picture that we're trying to make, it's not like the picture on the front of the box. It's just pieces and we can make any picture with it. And that's the part that I'm really wrestling with, because this is why I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, because it's almost like we're all just kids that want someone to tell us what to do, right? I want someone to tell me that this is real. Like, this is why I think people believe in God or a higher power, because we need to know. And so I'm like, just give me the picture. I don't want to make my own picture, right? Like, there is obviously a freedom in making your own picture, but there's also this fear that like, what if it's the wrong picture, or what if like the picture isn't real? And so I think that's what I'm wrestling with, is leaning into the, I don't know what this picture is going to be, or even if there's going to be a picture. And that part of the human experience, I think, is terrifying, because there's so much responsibility attached to that. If we truly can create our own meaning and our own picture out of all of these pieces, that is so much power to have for someone that like can't make my bed in the morning, that like sometimes binge eats like a pint of ice cream. Like, why would you give someone that amount of power,
Do you have any like pet peeves in terms of like dealing with people who may have adverse reaction when they hear that you're transgender, or in how people treat non-cis people?
Again, I've been very lucky in that I haven't had any negative reactions when coming out or telling people.
Yeah.
So I don't really have pet peeves. I guess my only thing is I feel like anybody that's a minority in any way, there's this sort of assumption maybe, or I don't even think it's a conscious assumption, but maybe like a expectation that it's okay to ask a bunch of questions. And actually I did want to bring this up, like as a disclaimer before this interview, if you could write like, because of our relationship, I have the comfort of you asking these questions, right? Like we have an existing relationship where like all of these questions are fine.
Yeah.
Because even asking a trans person like, what's your birth name is like incredibly intrusive, right?
Yeah.
But like, like I don't care. Like we have this relationship and I wouldn't sit across from just anybody.
Yeah.
So I think that context is key, right? Like, whereas I think with other questions, like you wouldn't ask people's like medical history unless you had that relationship. But I feel like with trans people, especially because we're just plastered all over the news right now and we're more commodified than humanized, there seems to be this assumption of like, well, I want to know all the things about your parts and all this stuff, right? So yeah, I think that, again, being mindful that there's a person behind that label of being trans or disabled or hearing impaired, whatever, right? Like there's a person behind all of those labels that you put in front of them.
Yeah, it's tricky because people have a curiosity. They want to know, but it's sensitive and they don't want to offend, so it's hard to get that information.
Well, here's my answer to that is, yes, I agree. Everybody has a curiosity, especially for something of an experience different from themselves, right? Same here. But get to know the person first, right? Like, it's like dating, right? You wouldn't ask someone on a first date, like, hey, do you want to move in?
Yeah.
You need context before you ask that.
Yeah.
And so, like, just because you see a person from a different country or from a different life experience, you don't go in being like, what's it like being black?
Yeah.
Like, just learn the person first.
Yeah.
It's like such simple human things, but I think, again, like politics comes into it, living in the Western civilizations, like so much of it goes into why we commodify people before we humanize them, capitalism.
Yeah.
But just be a fucking human being first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there will be a time when I run out of people I know to interview for this podcast, and I'll be reaching out to strangers, and that will be like the next chapter. And I'm not sure what that's going to look like, or how I'm going to gain people's trust. But we'll see.
Well, and like, this is the thing is, I think that like my job is to build rapport quickly with people. And my best story for this has nothing to do with being trans. So I went to a town of one.
What's your job?
I work in entertainment as a TV producer.
Okay.
And so I often have to work with, I don't work with celebrities or actors. I work with real people that I do documentaries. So they obviously know that they're going to be on camera, but knowing something and then actually having to do it are two separate things. So a lot of times when they're physically in front of a camera, it triggers a lot of stuff. And because I haven't known them their whole life, I need for them to know that I'm a trustworthy person for them to talk to me in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Like, I've known you for 5 years before I sat here.
Yeah.
I need to know somebody for maybe 5 weeks. So I want to be able to be non-judgmental. I want to hold a safe space for them in a container.
Yeah.
And I need to do that very, very quickly. And the way that I feel like I do that, which I don't even think is part of my job, I feel like that's who I am as a person, is I go to the humanity first instead of the commodity, right? Like, basically, it's another way of saying I look for the similarities instead of the differences first, even though the differences are way more obvious. So I went to, so there's a town in Nebraska that's literally population 1. And it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It's this older lady who runs the, like, restaurant and is also the mayor.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
It's called Monowi. I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if it's not.
Okay.
But like they have a liquor license.
Yeah.
She signs her own liquor license because she's the person, right? And it's the most amazing thing ever. So they do a weekly euchre night. Where like the neighboring towns go. Okay. And I think she's one of 5 women that play. They're all dudes.
What's a euchre?
It's a card game.
Oh, okay.
I'll wait for this. So they do a weekly euchre night, and she invited me to go. So I go, and of course, like I'm the only person of color there. I'm the youngest by at least 20 years. But everybody was super friendly, and these guys invited me to sit at one of their tables. You play in 4s. So I sit at the table, and we're just shooting the shit. And one guy is like, he had asked me where I'm from, and I said LA. And it's funny because every small town I've been to, when I say I'm from LA, they immediately make some derogatory comment, which is fine to me.
What do they say?
Like, oh, that's a place I'd never want to visit, or that feels like a hellhole, like the traffic, Yeah. There's immediately a derogatory comment about it.
Gotcha. When you're in like a red state?
Or like... Yeah, I would say, yeah, mostly. But I feel like even small towns, yeah. But I would never think about saying something disparaging about their town. And in fact, the small towns have always been really nice. So it's really funny how like immediately there's this attack, which is like, I get it. We have a bad rap for a lot of reasons, and there's a lot of reasons I hate LA. Yeah. But yeah, I noticed that immediately. And so like they made fun of LA for a bit, and then I sort of laughed it off. And then we got along so well that one of them had said like, hey, if you ever come back, I have a hunting cabin. You can stay on my property. And we could go hunting together. And I was like, yeah, thanks. That's really, so nice for someone that you just met for 15 minutes to invite you into their house, essentially. And I was like, that's really cool. I would love to stay there. I'd probably pass on the hunting though, because I'm vegan. And it was so funny because he was like, okay, like he didn't really know how to respond to it. And to this day, I'm not quite sure if he knows what that meant. Yeah. But then we started talking about something else, and then we were talking about, I don't remember what kind of food, but it was like a type of ethnic food. Okay. And so, there was a lot of differences in that conversation. Yeah. But at the end of it, I had said to them, I was like, yeah, I bet you guys feel like I'm just this alien, like this vegan Asian guy from LA that just waltzed into your euchre night, And they sort of chuckled it off, and we all got along like so well, and like I did know how to play euchre, but it's been a long time, so they were teaching me, and that's the thing we had in common, right? Sure. Like there was this sharing of knowledge, and also that like I wasn't immediately defensive about like, yes, there are shitty things about LA. Yes, it's weird that I'm a vegan in your state where hunting and cattle is the biggest thing, right? Like, and again, I think there was no judgment on either side. I think they didn't have time to judge because it was so shocking, and like they didn't expect me to show up on their euchre night. Yeah. And on my side, like, the reason I go into other cultures is not to judge them, is to like learn, right? Yeah. So like, again, like the humanity first. And, if I had stayed there maybe a couple more weeks, I would be comfortable coming out to them as trans. At the time I was not. But that's sort of oddly my favorite thing about coming out as trans is when people can humanize me first. Because I'm sure that someone who's never met a trans person does not picture this as a trans person. Yeah. Not only the way that I look, but the way that I speak and the way that I am. And so I want them to know that part first. And then I'll answer all your questions that you are curious about. Because I have no problem, like obviously I'm talking about my genitals, like, I have no problem answering those questions because I know they're the very obvious, curious questions. They're the same ones I would have. But don't ask me them first before you've asked me like what my favorite color is or, whatever.
Gotcha. Like buy me dinner first.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like let's learn the euchre first.
Yeah. How did you end up there again? For a documentary?
No. I just wanted to see it. I really wanted to meet that mayor of that town.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Elsie.
Tell me about your career a little bit. So is it like a specific kind of documentaries that you work on, or and how did you get into that?
I don't really work on a specific genre of documentary, I would say. The ones I'm geared towards are working in documentaries with marginalized populations. Someone had told me a long time ago that like media is the biggest change in the world, more than politics and everything, because media actually changes and influences politics.
Yeah.
Like you can see now with social media, like the TikTok crazes. If it's popular on TikTok, all of the brands are going for it, you know? So I was like, yeah, you're right. And my original career trajectory was being a cinematographer. And I did shoot for a little bit. And then I realized that I didn't like shooting and holding a camera so much as I loved the access that being the person who holds the camera gives you. Because just by virtue of holding a camera, it's allowed me to travel to a lot of places I otherwise wouldn't travel. Yeah. And for some reason, if you're holding a camera, people just trust you. If you're like, hey, I want to interview you, and people's favorite subjects always is themselves. Yeah. Yeah, like current example. Yeah. So it's just like, and it builds trust really quickly. Yeah. And so I realized that I liked the access it gave me, and so I transitioned into producing. Wow. Also, because holding a camera for your entire career is really hard on the body. And you never get to ask the questions as a cinematographer. You never get to actually sit and interact with a person. So I really like producing a lot more. So yeah, I've worked with like incarcerated populations, sex workers. Again, I'm vegan, so I did a documentary about the anti-whaling, and that's actually when I turned vegan. Yeah, people who usually don't have a voice or don't get access to the microphone as much, I like to work on documentaries where that amount of resources and attention and money gets put to them. Like they get to tell the story.
Yeah. I actually didn't know that about you. I didn't know. I remember you did some like reality TV stuff when we were living together. So I didn't know there was like this other side to what you do, which coincidentally echoes what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like
I was gonna say, yeah, it's very similar.
So yeah, we should definitely talk more about that.
Yeah.
I know some people will be curious to know, and me as well, like, what's the industry like? You know, like, how did you get into the industry? How did you get started? Do you have any advice for people who are trying to do something similar?
Yeah. Everybody ends up in it in a different way, and the only similarity is that someone else helped you get there. Nobody's like a self-made person. Somebody gave you a break, and this is what upsets me about people who are like really high up now that are assholes, is they forgot somebody gave them a break when they were just wanting to be a gopher. Because there's so much gatekeeping in this industry, especially if you don't live in LA or New York. So the way that I got in is sort of like I caught lightning in a bottle. So my favorite show at the time was called Intervention. It's still on. It's about it's a documentary series about people who struggle with addictive and compulsive behavior, and then their family has an intervention for them. And most of the time, they would seek help, and then we would film them after treatment. And most of the time, they would get better, and most of the time, they would stay better.
Oh, you worked on that show?
Yeah, that was my first show.
I got you.
So I was in college at the time, had graduated, had no idea what I wanted to do, and then decided to take a master's to kind of punt. So I was halfway through a master's, and I loved intervention, but I was in Washington State and had no connection to entertainment or LA. Yeah. I didn't even have my citizenship at the time. I think I just had a green card. And so I didn't know how to get in contact with them, except, and I tried every way of like looking up IMDb. I like looked up all the credits and tried to find like the person's email address so I could send my resume. But then finally what I did was I went to their casting website where like if my loved one was an addict, I would submit them through this website. So I used the website sort of erroneously, and I was like, I'm so sorry for misusing this, but it's my favorite show, and basically like I'll mop the floors if I can work on it. I actually have it framed in they printed it out for me later on.
The email?
Yeah. So I sent it to them, and the person in casting, who's a good friend of mine now, she read it and passed it on to the production manager who does the hiring. And he called me and said, we film around the country. If we're ever in the Seattle area, I'll keep your resume on file, which I thought was just a write-off, like the stock answer. So at the time the show had been on the air, I think maybe 5 years or so, 4 or 5 years. And like 3 months later, they were in the Seattle area, which I ended up working for them for 7.5 years. And in that entire time, they'd only been to the state of Washington twice.
Oh, wow.
So I got so fucking lucky.
Yeah.
So the crew because they have different crews that travel, and the crew that traveled to Washington at that time, again, I'm a very lucky person, happened to include the creator of the show who was also a director.
Yeah.
So the joke, because I was just a gopher, so I was literally just getting coffee, and it was 2 days that they were there. So the joke that I got is I got hired because of Doritos. So he loves Doritos, and he would always carry a cup of Doritos around. And apparently what he said when he got back to LA was every time I turned around, that cup was full. And so, and so it's just like, being eager and like, I would fill it up when he wasn't looking. Like anytime it was half empty, right? I would just fill it up.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like small things like that, and and it's funny because even though the barrier to entry is so high and competition is so high, it's also so easy to stand out because there's so many people that don't give a shit, that just want the job for other reasons, that aren't willing to do like, gopher type things like get coffee, like they think they're above it or something, right? So it sounds stupid, but being competent enough to fill up a can of Doritos or to get a coffee order right puts that little bit of trust that you can do the next step right, and then the next step and the next step, because there's a lot of people that can't even do that or don't have the capability. So so he came back to LA and was like, we should get this guy down here.
I need my Doritos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I need my cup to be full. I owe my entire life and my career to him, actually. I've been in LA 18 years now, and I send him a birthday message every year and say thank you for my life here. Yeah. So I came down for, it was a trial run, I think, for 6 weeks. So I put my master's on hold and my job on hold. Sam Metler. Yeah. So then 6 weeks, and then they decided to hire me. So then I drove down with all my belongings. Yeah.
And then that snowballed into all these other types of opportunities, documentaries, traveling.
Yeah, so I stayed on. So there aren't many shows like this which produce year round. Usually it's season, and then you're unemployed. But that show was producing year round, so I stayed with them for 7.5 years, and also owe my career to them because I started as a gopher, and then did like 3 or 4 jobs, and then left as a producer.
How old were you at that time?
I was 23 when I moved to LA.
Okay. So yeah, it's a good age to be okay with getting people's Doritos. I just imagine, I just like visualize what would I do in that situation. I'm like 37 now. I probably am not okay with getting people's Doritos at this point. Not that I'm looking for a career change or anything, but I just see that perspective, like those people.
What's funny is I just finished a job when I was in Sherman Oaks this last week, where I was literally getting people coffee.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and I have no qualms about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you getting paid well?
For the industry, no. I mean, I took a step down for this job, but this industry, I think, pays more than like the average of all jobs across the nation, right? Like I'm getting paid to get coffee, which is so ridiculous, and I have a lot of guilt and qualms about this, but I'm getting paid more to get people coffee than teachers are getting paid.
I mean, if the money's there, I'd do it. I mean, like money talks for sure.
Yeah. I think working in this industry too, it's so weird. And I think it might be different in scripted. Yeah. But in reality, like, there's just, because you're working with real people, you don't know what's going to happen, and you don't know how they're going to feel. So I've literally, like, it's not part of my job description by any means, but I've literally held people while they've cried in my arms. I've had friends that have literally wiped people's butts after they've gone to the bathroom because they were incapacitated. So I think it's kind of like being a parent. Like, you get over it really quickly. Yeah. And it's kind of connects people to the human experience more.
Sure. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I don't mean to sound like I have this ego that I'm above these types of things, but I just see that perspective. But that's cool.
I get what you say. It's like hazing versus like collaboration, right? Like if it's like, you need to do this because it's your way of proving yourself,
Sure. That's actually not where my mind was going, but I could see that. And I can see how we have to pay our dues. But I see it's more just a trust thing. You know, like people want somebody there that's going to lift them up, that's going to be the best for the production, even if it is just like a little job.
Yeah.
But what they contribute in terms of their energy, in terms of their trust, in terms of like the comfort that they bring to the set and to them being there, like that's what they're paying for.
Yeah.
That relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
And it takes time to build that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, even if it is just coffee or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, in my jobs, like, you know, I did this COVID thing for a while where I was directing COVID operations for a college for 2 years. And probably like 9-10 months out of the year, there wasn't really that much to do. But when there were these spikes, there was like tons of stuff. But for the most part, like, there wasn't shit to do. But I was there because, like, you know, I was the COVID guy and they needed to feel safe. And in case something happens, I was there. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what you're getting paid for, is that trust.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a really beautiful story. I'm glad to hear it, and I hope people can resonate with that. I'm sure they will.
Thanks. I'm going to pee real quick if you don't mind taking a break.
I'd love to do the same. Actually.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of tea.
Yeah, this is great, man. This is going to turn out amazing.
Oh, good. Yeah, thanks, man. This is a good conversation. I like interviews that feel more like a conversation than an interview.
Yeah. And that's like the way, that's what people want. You know, they don't want these, you know.
Barbara Walters.
Well, they don't want that. I was actually going more like network television narrative, edited commercial advertisements, agendas. You know, they just want the real shit.
Yeah.
You know, like one episode of Joe Rogan does better than like all of primetime TV combined.
I know.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like a really fun time.
Yeah. How long are his? I've never listened to him because I don't like him. But how long are his episodes? Yeah, I find him very obnoxious.
Yeah, they're like 2 to 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours.
Are they unedited?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Man, he's saving so much money. I can't believe him. Okay.
Yeah.
That just makes me more upset at him. But I get it. Everybody has their audience.
Oh, you're not a fan, huh?
I mean, to be honest, I don't know him that well.
Yeah.
And my experience of him is skewed because I'm part of obviously all of these trans and very like lefty groups,
okay.
and so the snippets that they excerpt are always very negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing about podcasts is like I never watch a podcast for the host. I always watch it for the guests.
Right.
And he's just got everybody. You know, and some of the most profound interviews. Like I think probably my favorite interview, the first interview he did with Paul Stamets. Was for whatever reason like very influential.
I don't know who that is.
Paul Stamets is a mycologist. He studies mushrooms, and he just has got these crazy stories about mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms, but also the mushroom industry. About how, you know, the army like raided his lab because he had a license to study psilocybin mushrooms.
Oh.
And so DEA agents were always trying to entrap him. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he just opens up and is very curious and is always poking at everything. So I like that about it. And he keeps people accountable. Like if somebody says something that doesn't make sense or he doesn't agree with, he'll stay on it. Like he won't let you off the hook. Which I think a lot of people will gravitate towards. But for sure, there's like that side that's like, you know, he's a comedian, he talks a lot, like, you know, like it could get opinionated pretty quick. And
he's very bro-y, and I don't love that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. But I think it translates to a lot of people. And then when people see the other side of it, like he's bro-y, but he's like his best friends is like Lex Friedman or physicists or mathematicians or authors or politicians or whoever, you know, and they see that side of it, right, left, gay, whatever, it kind of brings people around. It's certainly a phenomenon.
Yeah.
But let's go back to you. So we were talking about your career, documentary films. Do you have any film or moment in your career that stands out to you as like the most memorable, impactful thing that you're proud of?
I have two, and they're both from the same show, which is Intervention. And that show changed my life for a lot of reasons, personally and professionally. But in the biggest way, I think it's because I've seen miracles happen, and it made me believe in miracles. And the one example of that is there was a 40-year-old crack addict who was fully open about their addiction and very was not in denial about it at all, and open to talking about it. The one thing that she could not get over was being a bad mom. So she would never admit to that. And in her mind, she was like, yes, I did all of these horrible things, but I was always there for my kids, and I was a good mom. Obviously, in reality, that wasn't true. They were abandoned all the time and severely neglected and put in harmful situations, right? But that was the one source of guilt and shame that she could not face herself. And so she went through treatment, which is only 90 days. So after being a crack addict for several decades and then having 90 days of treatment, we go back for the follow-up. And my boss was like, see what she has to say about this. I don't think you're going to get much out of it. Unfortunately, I don't think she's had enough therapy for it. And you see this where this is going. But, I sat down and I very gingerly brought up the subject, and she started tearing up and said I've been such a horrible mom, and the only way I can make amends is to get clean. And it was really meaningful because not just the words that she said and that she acknowledged it, but that she wasn't sobbing. There wasn't this oh my God, I'm such a horrible person and I did this and all of and I was not there. It was this sense of accountability that is what you want to see in treatment, right? Because I think if she was sobbing and in a pit of shame around her motherhood, it would just perpetuate the cycle. But the fact that she was sort of confidently taking accountability for it means that there was healing there, right? She's no longer, the reason we become addicts and have compulsive behavior is because of shame. The reason I was self-harming was because I was so ashamed of myself. And so if I just transfer that shame into oh, I'm a horrible mother, it's just going to perpetuate the behavior. But the fact that she could acknowledge it and be this is what I did and this is what I'm going to do was the miracle. Wow. Yeah. And
I have to watch this show. Is it still on?
It is still on, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have heard horrible stories about interventions. But
because most of them are not done properly.
Yeah. I was interviewing a ex-heroin addict who is now addicted to benzodiazepines, and his family tried to do a intervention for him. And the way that he explained it was they were just, it wasn't done properly. There's no way that this is the proper way to do it. I don't know anything about interventions, but I can't imagine that this was the proper way to do it, where they were just belittling him, telling him he was worthless. They're just trying to break him. I guess they were just trying to break him down and make him surrender.
This is unfortunately the double-edged sword about that show, is a lot of people watch it thinking that they can then do it themselves.
Yeah.
And what you don't see in the show is we spend an entire day, literally an entire day, just with the family the day before the intervention for the interventionist to educate the family. So it's literally a 6 to 8 hour day where they're just teaching you how to do the intervention. And then you do it. But obviously that gets cut down in the show. But
yeah.
Oh, that's so sad. I feel so bad for him.
Yeah, it was a traumatic moment for him. And that's the only story that I got out of him the whole interview. Oh, your whole night that you hung out with him? Yeah, because, people who are addicted to benzos, their thoughts are very slow. Yeah. But that's the one story that came out, was that whole intervention. Ugh. Yeah.
Ugh, I wouldn't even call it that if it was done that way.
Yeah. What was the other moments that you had?
The other moment's a little bit more controversial. So I was working on a documentary with sex workers. So I was working on a documentary with a pimp and one of his hoes. That's how she would refer to herself. So they were filming with him somewhere, and I was just sitting in a car waiting with her. And she was a mother, young mother, and also addicted. She was addicted, I can't remember to what substance, but, you know, just talking about how hard life was and how bad she felt about being a mother, and starting to tear up a little bit. And I said, you know, I probably shouldn't be telling you this as your producer, but I just want you to know that I've worked in the addiction field before. This was after intervention. And I was like, I've worked in the addiction field before and worked with a lot of addicts, and it's a controversial opinion, but I truly believe that your addiction is saving you right now, because the alternative would be that you might kill yourself, and then your kids wouldn't have a mother at all. So it might be a slow suicide, but right now, for today, this second, it's keeping you here, and that's enough. And if the next step is getting a little bit better and a little bit better, let's do that. But if this is what it takes to keep you here right now, let's do it, you know? And both of us were just in tears at that point.
I'm sorry, what was she addicted to again?
I can't remember the substance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. The alternative was to her killing herself.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which I think is actually, unfortunately, the alternative to a lot of people, right? Like, they're masking the pain. And like, I have never, I don't think I have the addictive gene, which I consider a blessing, because I have all the markers for it. Like, there's no reason why I should be able to put down a substance.
Yeah.
I do struggle with a lot of compulsive behavior though. And so like, I understand that need of like, if I don't engage in this, whether it's taking a substance or a compulsive behavior, I'm going to sit with myself too long, and if I sit with myself too long, I'm going to kill myself. Like, that is a very logical sequence of events for me, and it's one that I feel like addicts resonate, and we've talked about, you know, whether it's conscious or not. They might not be actively suicidal, but...
I mean, another controversial perspective to add to that is a lot of people's lives would be relieved if they died.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
Yeah.
and death is not a terrible thing.
Right.
Yeah, there's such a fear of death, such like a stigma towards it, where I hope people can awaken to how beautiful it is, how that transition is. But, you know, it comes with a lot of baggage as well, and especially if people are close to you and what it means. You know, also comes with a lot of baggage and sadness and all sorts of stuff. But
right, that's always the thing, right? Is like, when one person dies, it doesn't really matter for them because they're dead. But like, are you staying alive to keep other people happy, or are you staying alive like because it would negatively impact other people? Like, her kids, you know, who knows, right? But like, yeah, a suicide can affect a lot of people, especially if they find the body as a child. You know, like, it's so hard to say. But yeah, a death certainly affects the dead person the least.
yeah, and I've seen it do such destruction. You know, it be so destructive, fucks up families, mental illness. Why was that moment? Talking to the one woman who had the addiction, why did that one stand out so much to you?
Ooh. I appreciate that question, because I've told that story so many times, but I've never thought about why it's been so meaningful. And the first thing that comes forward for me when you say that is that I guess I love seeing that older people can change their minds, especially mothers. And I think my unconscious desire or hope that's just become conscious this second when you ask that question is that I hope my own mom can change that way. Like, that she can be more, that she can feel safe within herself to process her own trauma.
Yeah. That's big.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And yeah, it was cool that she could do that, that woman could do that. Yeah.
So where's your career now? Do you have any goals? Do you have any projects coming up? What would you like to see happen?
Oof. I would say my professional life is probably the on a lower end of my priority list right now. I'm sure we'll go into this, but I just got back from the South Pole for a year, which was career adjacent. I would say it was like career low adjacent.
Did you go for a project?
I didn't go for an entertainment project. I went for work, but it was like totally not related to entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why it was adjacent, but not really.
Okay.
And so after getting back from Antarctica for a year, which was a very transformative year, I'm finding that my goals right now are like my physical health and my romantic health. Those two feel the most interesting to me right now. They feel the most motivating. They feel like where I want to put my energy, and conversely where I'm getting the most energy.
How's that going?
The physical health is going pretty well. I spent pretty much a year kind of weight training on my own because I was at the South Pole and there wasn't anything to do. So we had a gym. So I was just in the gym a lot, which was helpful in that not only for physical health, but I had two really good friends that were also gym rats. So the three of us became kind of pretty good friends, which was nice to have like a community and also like work out together. Yeah, so I was just on my own for about a year, and then I decided, I sort of hit a plateau with how much I could do on my own. And so, you know, being isolated for so long, I had all of these dreams of like, these are all of the things I'm going to do when I get back to LA. Like, this is going to be my life priority. And so, you know, the I don't know mantra was one of that. Like, I had a lot of anxiety about re-entering civilization. And so I was like, I'm just going to take the I don't know approach. Like, it's not going to be so bad. My anxiety is going to be okay. And then the other one was I want to find a trainer because I had a really good foundation of just knowledge of, I think, my body awareness and also working out and strength. So I wanted to find a trainer to just kind of get me at that next level.
Yeah.
And because I also realized that like dating and romantic relationships was also going to be a priority of mine. I was joking. I was like, I just want one really good Tinder profile picture. So like, just give me a 6-pack for one day, snap that photo, and then I'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you look great. Your arms are huge.
Oh, thank you.
From what I remember, for sure.
Yeah, I've made a lot of progress. I'm trying to cut down on body fat percentage now, which has been pretty challenging. But you know, I feel like I've done a lot of really challenging things in my life. Transitioning, obviously, one of them, and you know, the South Pole was another challenging thing, and just other random shit. I sort of had this like goal, and there's sort of bro science, I guess, around like if you can get to 10% body fat, that's when your abs become visible. And so that was sort of my like loosey-goosey goal. And the trainer that I'm working with now, I love him. Octavian Tay is his name. I think I like working with trainers because the trainers always have more what's the word? They see more of your potential than I do myself, and he has more belief in me than I do myself. So he wants to get me to 8% body fat, and I feel like that's like going to the moon for me. Like, it feels so incredibly impossible that I don't even care about the way that I look, honestly. If I can get to 8%, it'll literally be the hardest thing I ever do in my life. And I am like chasing after that goal of feeling like I can do it, like that sense of accomplishment. I really, really want, because of all of the like sort of crazy things that I've done, they've felt challenging and far away, but they've never really felt impossible. This feels impossible, and in sort of a silly way, that's why my physical health and my romantic health are so tied together, because as someone who grew up with so much shame around my sexuality and my desirability
and your body
and my body, if I sort of feel like getting to 8% is that same impossibility as like getting married. So like, I think there's maybe some part of my unconscious brain that's maybe, again, becoming conscious as I talk about it, that like, well, if I can get to 8%, maybe I can find a life partner, you know?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
And you're at 10% now?
No, I'm at like 12 and a half.
Okay.
So I have a ways to go.
What's the path there? Like, what are you doing?
So it's a lot of cutting. So it's actually working on my diet, which is way harder than being in the gym. Like I can be in the gym for 4 hours. I love the gym. But saying no to birthday cake is like close to impossible for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that type of stuff is mostly in diet and sleep, I feel.
Yes, both of which has been real. I've been normally a good sleeper, but this last week has been tough, which has affected my diet. So I'm hoping to get back on track this week, but it's funny because I was in pretty good shape by the time I saw him in January, and it took like probably 3 to 6 months just to like figure out my relationship with the food, which I didn't realize was so hard. Like I went through a period where I was actually really angry and resentful about food because I was restricting. Not even restricting like I needed to eat less, but restricting the types of food I could eat. Yeah. And because I'm one of my compulsive behavior is eating and emotional eating and binging. And restricting. I had restricted at some point in my life, but like I would literally go to the grocery store and stand in front of the donut shelf and the donut aisle and just sigh. Like I'd just stand there and moan. And I was so sad.
Why would you torture yourself like that?
It was, it was this really weird thing. And that's why I got so angry. And I was telling my trainer about this because I was like, I'm very angry and feeling very like a petulant child and very rebellious because like I could buy a donut and eat it, and I had, but when I would eat it, I would be upset because I knew I was going away from my diet. But then if I didn't eat it, I was upset because I wasn't fucking eating it. Yeah. So my compromise was to stand there and look at it and just be angry. That was literally my compromise.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was miserable. I was like so upset. Yeah.
But can you feel the difference now? Do you feel good? Like, can you feel the differences in your body? And
yeah, I mean, as someone growing up with body dysmorphia, I think I would have had body dysmorphia even if I wasn't trans.
Yeah.
My nickname as a child was Fat Girl in Chinese. And it's funny because I wasn't like obese. I was like a chubby kid.
Yeah.
Like all kids are chubby, right?
Yeah.
But that was my nickname, sort of endearingly nicknamed. And so I grew up with that. And like any sort of Chinese family, I was always told to like finish my food. And I think I like was forced to overeat. And then from that, like overeating and being overfull became my normal. Yeah. And then from that, because I was so isolated as a child and had like a lot of internal emotional turmoil, I turned to food as self-soothing. And I was also kind of a latchkey kid, so I would feed myself. And so there was no limit, I could just keep eating. And so I would turn to that as soothing and comfort and distraction. And so I never really knew when I was full, and I never really knew when I was hungry. And I think that's wrong. I think I did know, but I would just override it because I was given all these messages to override it. Again, that I couldn't trust my own instincts, right? Yeah. Like trusting the way that I love is not right. Trusting when I'm full is not right. Trusting the way that I feel is not right. And so I had a really fucked up relationship with food. And I'm working on it to this day, and that's why I stood in front of the donut case, and that's why I got so angry, because I like still my relationship with food is so weird. Yeah. But this last week has actually been eye-opening because I was working a crazy job. So I was out of town, out of my house for a week, and because I'm on this diet, I packed all my food with me. So I literally had a backpack, a suitcase, and 2 like canvas bags, grocery bags of food. And because I was so busy, I didn't have the option. Like if I had a craving, I didn't have an option to like go to a grocery store and get ice cream. So I had to eat what I packed with me. And because I was so busy, I often like skipped a meal or could only eat half a meal. And while that wasn't necessarily healthy, over those 5 days, because I had to do it every single day, I was like, oh, there were some days I'm actually not hungry, like where I don't actually need all 3 of my pre-planned meals. Yeah. And that's when I was like, oh, I can listen to that part of myself that's hungry or full and then not immediately override it. Yeah. Because I would be full and then immediately override it by eating more, or I would be hungry and be like, well, I'm going to gorge myself right now. So it gave me more awareness of what my body was actually signaling me.
Yeah, that stress of being on set and having a change in your rhythm.
Yeah.
I have a similar story through meditation. I do these like 10-day meditation silent
The Vipassana
retreats. Have you heard of them?
Oh yeah, I've been to them.
Oh, you've been to them? Oh, so yeah, it's like that reminds me of that because you only have 2 meals a day. The first meal is like a light breakfast. The second meal is lunch, and there's no dinner. But as you get into the meditation, you don't
I
need.
don't remember that. Yeah, I have no memory about being hungry those 10 days.
Yeah, you don't need 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
Because you're just sitting there all day.
Yeah.
So you don't need all that food. But also, I mean, I try to do it like once a year, and I've been meditating since 2008. And now I do it like 2 hours a day.
The Vipassanas?
Yeah, Vipassana. But it makes me so sensitive to my body. I feel like I don't put anything into my body that my body doesn't need. So it's been great on my bank account.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing. Yes. And time.
And I feel everything. Like when I feel a donut, and it's always been like that. Even before meditation, I've just always been like a very physically aware person through martial arts and capoeira and kickboxing. And I could feel it. Like I feel it in my cheeks. I could feel it like everywhere. But meditation, for me, takes my awareness of my body to like another level.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you about the vision quest that I went on?
No.
I feel like this is something you would really enjoy. It reminded me when you're talking about like minimal eating because they fast. So it's this awesome vision quest that I did that's 9 days. And the first 3 days, they like slowly remove you from civilization. So it's in Death Valley. So the first night you're in regular society, and then the second night you go to this like camp outside of Death Valley. So it's like a very small town, but there's still like a bathroom. And then the third night you drive into where you're going to do the isolation, which is literally nothing. And Death Valley, you can't, like the ground is such that you can't even pitch a tent. So you bring a tarp and rope, and they teach you how to make a shelter for yourself. So the middle 3 days are isolation, and you like, it's really cool. Like you have a buddy so that they know you're safe. But so like the day before you actually separate from everybody, you like kind of explore the place and decide where you want to set up. And then once you decide where you set up, you like draw it on a map, and then you find a buddy that's in the closest proximity to you. And then you find a middle point where you drop a rock. So you have to drop a rock every day to let them know that you're safe. So that's how you communicate. But other than that, you literally don't see anybody for the middle 3 days. You're just alone. And the way that I interpreted it is I wanted to make myself like a bowl, like an empty bowl to receive whatever was going to come to me. And the way that they do that obviously is isolation. You bring like, I think however many gallons of water, and minimal food. Yeah, you don't fast for the 3 days. You only fast for the last day. But the last day you're supposed to fast and also stay up for the whole 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
So that you're depleting all of your like physical capabilities, and you can be fully vulnerable to whatever brings up. And then they teach you like chants and stuff to stay awake and whatever. It's fascinating. And then the last 3 days, they slowly integrate you back into society in the reverse order. Yeah. And then the last so the first 3 days when you're with people, you like are in a circle and you discuss stuff. And then the last 3 days you're in the circle, and then you discuss obviously what you learned and all of that stuff too.
Yeah. So how was it? What did
it was amazing. Yeah. I would love to do it again. Unfortunately, like I mean, when I went, I was lucky because it was like a sliding scale. It was like one of the sliding scale offers that they had, and now they don't have that anymore. So it's a little bit pricey. I can't remember how much it is, but it's more than I want to spend right now. Yeah.
Did you have any visions or revelations or what did you get out of it?
Yeah, the one thing that I got out of it is the place that I picked was the top of a hill, and I found it because I had walked a long way and then was like, oh, this hill looks cool. And so I walked up, like it was like a slow incline. And then I realized when I got to the top of the hill that it's actually really close to where our base camp was and where my water was. And I didn't think of, like, I had already threw all my shit up there. And so I was like, fuck, now I have to walk all the way back around with my waters. And I was like, I picked the wrong spot. But then I found a different way to get there, and the different way that I got there was actually longer, but the side of the hill had this beautiful desert flower on it, and it was like the only like colorful thing in the vicinity, and I was like, and it was just really meaningful to me that I had found like this spot of beauty when I thought that I had done everything wrong and I had like fucked up everything. And the other thing I realized is the desert is such a beautiful place because there's nothing that I could project my insecurities onto that would reflect back at me.
Yeah.
Like here I can be like, that person has a nicer car than me, that person's better looking than me, walking literally anywhere. My neighbor has a nicer house than me.
Yeah.
But the desert doesn't deal with your bullshit that way.
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting that like the first thought that you have from being there alone is like you fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Huh. Yeah, I love stuff like that. I love retreats. I wish I could do all of them all the time.
Yeah, I think you'd really like that. And the other thing too, which I really appreciate, is there was this guy there that was like middle-aged white guy. I want to say he was probably kind of wealthy because he was talking about money and stuff and how much he had paid. And so I like immediately judged him.
Yeah.
And I like didn't like him off the bat. And then afterwards, when you're back in the circle and you kind of share what you learned and stuff, he was sharing about what he learned. And I can't remember what it is now, but by the time it got to me, I was like, you know, I just want to share that I really judged you in the beginning and I want to apologize, even though I never said it out loud. It was in my heart and blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, I'm appreciative that I reflected my own biases and also like reflecting like the way in which you shared this stuff is how I interpreted it. So like maybe you don't always want to be like, I paid $10,000 a beat, you know what I mean? Like how that comes across as well.
Sure. What was his reaction?
He was also very gracious. Yeah. Again, right? Like love is the basis of all of us. And when we humanize the person first, like I did not humanize him first. I heard his, whatever he was talking about, his ego, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lovely experience. Like it's like both the isolation and also the community afterwards.
There are some people who are just so far gone, you know?
Yeah.
But even then, somewhere in there, there's a human in there. And there's a reason, and there's a background, and there's a story, and there's a family, or something, you know?
Yeah.
And it's everybody.
Yeah.
Tell me about the South Pole. What brought you there, and what was it like?
So I am very interested. I guess I should start with, I had a crisis in my career about a decade ago, and I wanted to leave the industry, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I went to a career counselor. And
what happened?
Sorry?
What happened?
Oh, there was no like inciting, well actually no, I had left intervention and then I worked on a scripted show and had a horrible experience, and that's where I thought my career was going to go, into scripted. And so after that I was like, I don't want to do scripted, and I also kind of don't want to go back into documentary, so what do I do? And so I went to this career coach, and one of the first questions she asked me was, what is your purpose in life? And like all LA people, right? They're not just about your career. They're very like woo-woo about everything, like a very holistic coach.
Okay.
Which was great. I'm very woo-woo. So
Yeah.
so I was like, well, that's a huge question.
Yeah.
And like, if I knew the answer to that, I wouldn't be paying you, you know? And so it was great because she asked me that question, and then like we would just, it seemed like we were shooting the shit, but she was taking notes. And then at the end of it, she had said something that was close to this, and then I refined it in my head, which is, I think my purpose in life is to access inaccessible places, or that's my desire, that's my drive, to access inaccessible places, whether they're geographical, emotional, philosophical, intellectual. I really like getting into the nooks and crannies of places that often get overlooked or ignored or whatever. And so I seek out those places, and I think that's why I work in documentaries. Like I love learning people's psychology. I love learning how other people do life. That's why I went to Nebraska with the City of One, you know?
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated because we only get to live our own life. I only get the experience of what it's like living in LA.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like living in the City of One, Nebraska. But now I have an idea, like maybe 0.5% I can understand.
Yeah.
And so I have a list on my phone that's called superlative travel. And it's basically all the superlatives, right? Like the most remote place, the place with the smallest population, all of those things. So Antarctica has always been fascinating to me because it's the most untouched. And I really like isolation, and I really like the idea of seeing Earth in its most raw form. And I'm very drawn to, for some reason, the cold. I don't really like the heat. There's something about snow or ice or whiteness that makes everything feel calm to me. So a brief history. So the U.S. Has 3 research stations on Antarctica. And the one that's the easiest to get the job in, and by easiest, it's still kind of hard, is called McMurdo. And it's sort of the LAX of the continent, because it's very large and very well funded. It's probably the most well funded. So any other country that has research bases there usually fly through us and all of that stuff. So it's the largest one, which is why it's the easiest to get a job there. My goal was always to get to the South Pole, but it's so hard to get there as if your first time.
Yeah, and you were trying to get a job there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to back up a little, I had no idea people live there. I had no idea that you could even work there. Like when I was still working on intervention like 12 years ago, I wanted to visit there. And the only way to go was through these cruises, which at the time were like exponentially too expensive for me to afford, and still are quite expensive. And so A, it was out of the question for me financially, and B, I never liked the idea of being a tourist anywhere.
Yeah.
Which is why I went to Euchre Night. Like, I love doing that stuff. I want to know what it's like to live somewhere.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, in Googling the cruises, it came up that you can work there. And I was like, fuck, that's perfect. Not only do I not have to pay to go there, they'll pay me, and I get to live there. Wow. And that's when I learned that the South Pole has a station, which, as someone who loves superlative travel, it's the most remote place you can go to. So that had been my goal. And I've also weirdly had this like fantasy ever since I was a little kid of getting stuck in an elevator with someone. Because you have to make it work with that person. It could literally be anyone, and you have to make it work. And somehow that's always really fascinated me. Because it's such a crapshoot of who you'll end up with. And I've always wondered how I would make it work with somebody. And so the South Pole is that. It's tiny. You have to make it work with someone. And I also really like nighttime. So like about 8 months of the year is dark and 4 months of the year is light. Yeah. So I was very curious to see how it would be like to live in darkness. There's also, the southern equivalent of the Northern Lights is the Southern Lights, which I had never seen the Northern, so I was really excited to see the Southern. So a lot of things drew me to the South Pole.
Sure.
But I needed to get a job first and to get them to trust me. My resume, if you look at my resume, it's all entertainment, so I have no technical or scientific skills.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, there's no reason I would be down there.
Okay.
Which is why the barrier to entry is also very high.
Yeah.
But so the purpose of those 3 stations is obviously science. But because the scientists have to live there, you basically create a community for them. Okay. So the ratio is actually really high of support staff to scientists. So it's about 8 to 1. So they have everybody from like plumbers to firefighters, hairdressers, cooks, obviously, janitors. So you either need a trade or a science background to work there. Neither of which I have. Especially if you look at my resume, it's like, why the fuck is this person that worked on intervention trying to work in like a place where we need someone to hammer a nail, right? Yeah. So I'd applied for a couple of years, or 12 years ago I saw it and then bookmarked it. And then like, I tried for a couple of years and didn't even get any sort of acknowledgement.
What was the position you were going for?
Oh, so I was going for all the entry-level positions, like janitor. They have like a commissary store there, so cashier, dishwasher, even like a prep cook, whatever all the entry levels were. Never got even a callback or an acknowledgement that they received my resume. And then in 2018, 2017, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who was trying to get pregnant at the time and having a hard time. And she said, if I don't become a mother, I'm just going to feel like my journey as a human being doesn't feel complete. And I'd known that I didn't want to have kids. So like immediately I was like, that is not how I feel. But if I never make it to Antarctica, that's exactly how I feel. I will just feel like my humanness is not fully expressed. And so that's when I was like, I need to take this more seriously. So I went back on the website, and literally, because it's so expensive to get you down there, and so expensive if they need to fire you to fly you out, that they need to make sure you're normal and sane, and that you can be in this remote place for such a long time and not be like a dick and not like, you know, be disruptive to a community, right?
Yeah.
So even the job listing for, let's say, a dishwasher has like 15 bullet points of, you know, requirements or whatever. And so what I did is, instead of just sending in my resume or whatever, I took that and literally made a grid of every single bullet point in the job listing, and then explaining how my previous employment, even though it doesn't directly relate, what I've used in my previous employment that relates to that. So it took me forever, and I did that literally for every job: dishwasher, janitor, cashier, every single job. So I sent that in, and then I got a call from the hiring manager, who's the nicest guy, and he's like, "This is the best thing I've ever seen." And I was like, "Oh, thank the fucking Lord." And so that was 2019.
What was the position?
So he was hiring me for the cashier position, which is the best one. And he had said I had applied sort of midway through their hiring season, so he had already sort of filled up the primary slots. But he was like, "I can offer you an alternate," and I was like, "Great, I'll take whatever you got." And like, I can literally, as a single dude with no dependents, I can leave whenever. And so I was an alternate in 2019, and then I got a TV job. So I called him and I was like, "I don't want to turn it down, but I also don't want to miss this opportunity." And he's like, "I don't want you to lose out on 2 jobs. So take the TV job and it won't be a black mark against you. We'll try again next year." And I was like, "Great." So then 2020, he calls and he's like, "Congratulations, you're my primary for the cashier position." And I was like, "Perfect. The problem is they pay so little because your room and board and everything is covered that I actually needed to work at least one TV job to literally afford to go down. Otherwise, I'd be going down, because you go for like 5 to 7 months. Otherwise, I'd literally be losing money to go. And it was perfect. I had a TV job lined up, and then a second right after, and then I would immediately go to Antarctica. And then COVID happened. So I lost all my TV jobs. So I called him and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I like literally can't afford to go." And he's like, "Again, not a black mark against you. I totally get it. This is why they have so many alternates." And so he's like, "We'll try again next year." And so finally in 2021, I went down and was a great experience. Like, I got very lucky because it was still technically a COVID year. So that station is huge. In the summer, it can get up to like 1,100 people. It was only, we peaked at like 600 that year, which is perfect for me as like an introvert that hates crowds. So it was lovely. There was like a huge queer community there. We, to like boost morale because it was so hard under COVID, some friends and I put on a production of The Nutcracker. It was like beautiful, and it was like going back to elementary school. Electronics, we don't really have regular internet there, so like everything's analog. So we don't, people in the galley aren't like texting all the time. Like, you're actually having conversations with people. Like, people do board game nights and trivia nights. There's a huge craft room where you'll see like the station doctor like making, like sewing or whatever. It's great. So I spent 5 months there, came back for about 5 months, and my hiring manager had known that South Pole was always my goal. So he called me the following year and was like, "Great news, we have this position at the South Pole for you." And I was like, "Perfect." And so that's how that happened. And they only hired me for the summer, and I actually took a step down to go to the South Pole. I was a dishwasher and also managed the store. And then they extended my contract, because that was only for the summer, so I still wasn't going to be able to see my Southern Lights. But then they extended my contract for the winter, where I was working in the warehouse, dealing with their supplies and stuff. So then I got to stay for the full year. Yeah.
And how was it?
Oh, man.
Like, what did you get out of it?
The net...
Was it what you expected?
It was really hard to say what I expected because I didn't know what to expect. I would say obviously highs and lows throughout, but the net experience was positive. The reason I want to specifically winter at the South Pole is because I feel like I really like seeing my own blind spots about myself. And so I wanted to go into an experience where I removed as many familiar variables as possible. So that the only thing that was a constant is myself. And then I wanted to see how I react. Because when I have stuff that I can lean on that's comfortable or familiar, I don't get to a level of vulnerability, right? Of a deeper vulnerability just within myself. But if I'm somewhere where I don't know anybody and I'm stuck with 40 people and, you know, in the middle of nowhere with limited communication to my friends and family, like, who am I? What am I going to do? And I feel like there were a lot of parts of me that I didn't necessarily like seeing, but I think it was important to come face to face with. I also think there's something really powerful about boredom. Powerful is maybe not the right word, but there's something very informative about boredom, because I think that I feel like it's like, what do you do when you're bored? Not even when you're angry or when you're sad or depressed or whatever, but boredom is such an underrated emotion. And so, yeah, of course I dealt with that a ton. So it was a good learning experience, both for me internally and also where I fit within a community. Because we were building a community from scratch, like nobody knew anybody. And it's funny to see what kind of roles everybody takes on. And also what I lacked that I need in my life. So there was no queer community there. And that was another priority that I had coming back to LA as well, is I want to find that.
Cool.
Yeah, sorry, that's going to be hard for you to edit. That was a long monologue.
No, it's cool. I just spaced on a question. Did you get to see the Southern Lights?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes, the irony is it was so cold that you can't really see. I couldn't really see them for very long. Other people had much more tolerance. And also it was a little bit disappointing because the pictures, because the exposure on a camera can expose way better than your eye can for the lights.
Sure, yeah.
So they look way better on camera than they do with your naked eye. So actually, I really want to see the Northern Lights now, because I think I can stay out longer and actually see the full dance. Whereas I could only stay out for like maybe 15 seconds and you don't see the full dance and the full display.
Yeah. How cold was it?
So the warmest it ever got was, I think, minus 55 Fahrenheit is the warmest it got. And then the coldest it got, I think, was minus 103.
Wow.
But what's funny is when it would be so anything warmer than minus 70 felt like summer. Like I could go out in a t-shirt.
Really?
Yeah.
Minus 70.
Yeah, you get like very acclimated very quickly.
Huh.
Yeah.
So everything is indoors, obviously. It's like one big indoor complex where everything...
No, we work outside. We can work outside.
Oh, you work outside?
Yeah, so we can't work outside for very long, and the machines will fail after a certain point. And like, I think at they're technically not supposed to go out, I think, out colder than minus 70, but we would push it to like minus 80. But yeah, we have to do stuff outside.
What kind of research were they doing there?
So the South Pole Station does a lot of space research. It's so wild. I wish I could explain this better, but like the thing, and I'm very the space is is the branch of science I'm most fascinated with. There's like a telescope that can look into like the origins of the universe. Yeah. It's called the cosmic microwave background.
Okay.
It's fucking fascinating. And what's amazing about all of the research stations, and I like cannot emphasize how I wish everybody could go to learn this and like experience kind of going back in time, like before we had cell phones, is that you get to sit at lunch with these scientists. You get to talk to them. They'll teach you everything. Like, it's like having a scientist in your back pocket. Like, how often do you get to do that, right? Like, and again, why I love working in documentaries. Like, I would never cross paths with these, like a crack addict or this like pimp, you know? And in the same way, like I would never sit at lunch with a scientist or a doctor or like all of these people that have great life experiences. And so we get to just talk about that stuff, and that was really fun. Yeah.
Did you ever talk about that pyramid that's down there, that people say is down there?
I don't even know what that is. There's so many
like tales or
conspiracy theories. Yeah.
There's one theory, like if you look at a satellite, there's a mound in Antarctica that looks like a pyramid. And so people think that there's a pyramid under there, but I don't think it's ever officially been explored.
Oh, I'm going to go ahead and say that that's false. Yeah, I feel very confident that almost all of the conspiracies are not true.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, having worked at 2 bases, and again, it's a giant continent, so who the hell knows? But I can pretty much say with certainty there's not like a whole lot of government secrets happening there.
What are some conspiracy theories that you know of about the South Pole?
I think there's one that's like they're keeping like viruses or something under the ice, aliens under the ice. Yeah.
Sorry, what was the research that they were doing against? Has to do with space.
Yeah.
But aren't they also like drilling through the ice and looking through?
Yeah, they do ice cores to track like air quality. They also they release weather balloons to track like, another cool thing is they're tracking the ozone layer. So the ozone layer has actually healed itself since they outlawed CFCs.
Yeah.
So they track that, and like not just the ozones, but like different levels of our atmosphere. So they do a lot of tracking there because the air is the cleanest there and it's so dark down there. So they can do a lot of that research at the South Pole.
I see.
And then McMurdo, the other station that's like on the like circumference of the continent, they do a lot of like wildlife stuff, and they also do
That was what I was going to ask. Is there any wildlife down there?
At the South Pole, no. We're the only multicellular organism there.
Oh.
So Antarctica is the coldest, driest desert in the world. So we're actually living at altitude at the South Pole. And so like nothing, it's so cold that there's no flora or fauna there.
And nothing in the water either?
There's no water.
There's no water?
Yeah, because you're right in the middle of the continent.
I see.
Yeah.
No ice fishing?
No. No, you'd have to drill, miles.
Wow, what an experience. And then were you happy to come back? Were you happy for it to be over?
I was definitely ready to rejoin society. What's funny is I've always been a food guy, and I thought food would be the thing that I missed the most, which I did. But we had amazing chefs and bakers. But I hate to be this guy, but I actually miss the internet the most.
Yeah.
It was so hard, and I was so upset at myself for being that guy. But yeah, I just really wanted the convenience of the internet again. It was so crazy.
Yeah.
Because we would only get internet for 9.5 hours a day, but 4 of those hours were like, because it's satellite based, so one of the satellites was just shit. So like 4 hours was literally like you could barely load Gmail.
Yeah.
So really it was 5 hours of internet a day. And I found that like when we would know the end of our window was coming, I would run out of things to do, but I would just like randomly Google shit because I'm like, I only have like 30 seconds left. And it was just this weird like lack mentality, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I miss the internet a lot. But I did have anxiety coming back because the greatest gift of being in Antarctica is as an adult, like you don't really have to make any decisions. All of your food is provided, your lodging, everyone you'll ever meet is right there. Like you never run into a stranger.
Yeah.
And while obviously that does things negatively for your mental health, it's also like, when do you get that privilege as an adult?
Yeah, you'd have to be in like the army or in school or in some situation where, because I've thought about that too, and it's such an easy life when you can just do what you're told and when everything is laid out for you, when there's like a structure that you can follow.
Yeah.
And my background is in music, and I've always had to make my own way and figure things out and be an entrepreneur in a way, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It can get exhausting. So I've thought about it.
Yeah.
I've wanted to join the army. I've considered it. So I can relate.
Yeah. But even then, like, there's literally no novelty. Like, no one will call you. Like, it's not like someone will surprise you by calling you, you know, like there's no novelty, there's no decisions, and so like before coming back, I was like, oh fuck, I'm going to have to like just pay my bills again. I'm going to have to stand in a grocery line. I'm going to have to drive, like all of these things, like, so I was ready to come back, but I literally, like, because I was gone for so long, I rented out my apartment. And so I packed all my stuff away, and I remember rolling my suitcase in right here, and I stood in, and it's so weird to like come back to literally your home that should be the most familiar place to you.
Yeah.
And it's completely empty. And I stood there and I was like, and I said out loud, I was like, this is so weird. Like, cause I dreamt about it for so long, and then actually being here, but then not having it be furnished and not having it really be my home was so fucking weird. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like quite a jolt to the system for sure.
Yeah.
Well, man, do you have anything else that you want to talk about? Any advice for the kids, or or anything on your mind before we wrap things up?
I think the only last thing I want to say is like, I feel like a lot of my friends have asked me like, what's your next adventure after this? And I don't really resonate with the word adventurer. Because I feel like I'm led by my curiosity. I'm very inquisitive and very curious. And so it's not like I do these things because I want to answer a question. Like, I wanted to know what it's like to live at the South Pole. What's it like to live at the South Pole? That's what brought me there. And so, yeah, I would love to hear, and I would love for people to think about, like, what are their questions? You don't even have to look for the answer, but sometimes it's fascinating just to do a thought experiment of what are the questions that you have about life? What are the questions you have about the world or each other or relationships? And then if you feel compelled, go look for the answer. Go experience the answer. Yeah,
I'm really fascinated to see where your life will go and who you'll be able to touch. The same way that I feel from our conversation today that you've had an impact in your family, you know, in your work, in people who on the show Intervention, and I'm sure in all sorts of ways, right? And I'm really excited for you and to see what's next and how that's going to evolve.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. And maybe we could do this again in a couple of years. If I'm still doing this, but I just feel excited about it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
my next I was joking, my next adventure is like getting married.
Yeah.
That feels way harder than like climbing Everest or going to the South Pole.
Yeah. All right, brother, thank you so much.
Yeah, great chat.
Yeah, we can cut it there.
Yeah.
All right.